Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Hello everybody, welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeff Malinoff. I wanted to do a little LeBron James retrospective because as of right now, it does not look good for the playoffs for LeBron James, and this will be the first time in a long time. And I just wanted to briefly talk about the 2 years he did not make the playoffs, which are the first 2 years of his career, and how those teams were and who's on that roster and compare them to the Lakers roster today. That might take a little while. Then we move on to the games that happened today, going to happen today and this weekend and yesterday, as well as James Harden's amazing 58 points that he had yesterday. But first things first, let's get right into it. LeBron James' first NBA season was, of course, in 2003. And it was with the Cavaliers. This is before the decision thing, obviously. And everyone remembers they show his first game always. It was at Arco Arena against the Sacramento Kings and all this kind of things. It was that was the main game shown. But if you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers in their 2003 season, they were ninth in the Eastern Conference. They barely missed the playoffs at 35-47, so an under 500 record. And this was who was actually on the roster that year, if you believe it or not. If you guys, does anyone remember Carlos Boozer? He was actually on that team. I was unaware of this. That's actually he was the second round pick for Cleveland the year before. I don't really remember that. Then he goes to Utah and spends 6 years there. That's what people mainly remember him from. But that's the only guy of note. I mean, Cabano, Jason, Neleon Lee, Nubal Ara Ali. Oh no, Nubal Ara. It's just a bad. How they organized this was bad. Ali, Kevin, and so on and so. Yeah, there was obviously not a lot. Kendrick Brown was also there. Oh, I'm reading these wrong. I've got Lee, Nylon, Ira, Nubal, Kevin Ollie, Jeff McClinnis. That's my name. Jeff, same thing. Jason Capano, of course, LeBron James, Carlos Boozer, Kendrick Brown, Tony Batty. I mean, not a very steady lineup, isn't it? Not an attractive one, that's for sure. So that was his first season. They didn't make the playoffs, but the next season, they also didn't make the playoffs. At 42-40, they broke 500 but couldn't get into the playoffs in ninth yet again. So back-to-back 9-seed seasons. And so with that, I'll tell you the roster for this team. Drew Gooden, Lucius Harris, Luke Jackson, who was their draft pick that year. Ira Nubal, Jeff McInnis, same as before. Eric Snow, Robert Traylor, Traylor, that's just Traylor. Scott Williams, that not a very attractive lineup, and you can only do so much. And let's just see his stats, shall we? If I can find them, here they are. So, LeBron James that year played 80 of the 82 games. Let's see, points per game were 27. 27 points per game in his second year with the Cavs is pretty impressive. No wonder they got to 42 wins. But, of course, it wasn't enough. Then comes his streak of playoff appearances. Of course, Fourth place in the Eastern Conference, his third year in the NBA. 50 and a 32 record. Second in the division. Only fourth in the conference for a pretty 50-win season. It's pretty good nowadays, I guess. But I guess it's different nowadays. And with this roster, there was Larry Hughes was on this team. Wow, a lot of the same guys. I think just LeBron just got better with age. Kind of makes sense because the guy's like a fine wine, and if in all retrospect. And then, of course, his fourth season in 2006-07, he went to the finals, but unfortunately got swept by the Spurs. And if you want to listen to this roster, how this team made the finals, I have no idea. Same team as before. Dwayne Jones was there. Added a new Scott Pollard was on this team. Like, this team is old. This team didn't have a lot going for it, all things considered. But they made it to the finals, but got swept by the much superior Spurs team. So LeBron just to capitalize on everything. LeBron's just been making it to the playoffs every single year since 2005-2006 season. And he's made it past the first round on multiple occasions. Actually, every single occasion he's been in the playoffs at the moment that I've seen. But then in 2010 and 2011, when LeBron left, so this is a very important aspect. The Cleveland Cavaliers went 61-21 with LeBron's last season before he went to Miami. Then they go 19-63. How do you not say that this guy, LeBron James, is one of the best ever and one of the most important aspects to any championship piece ever? Because if you look at the 1995 season for the Bulls, that was when Michael Jordan left. For that brief period of time, they still made the playoffs, but only made it to the semifinals where they lost to the Magic, who went on to the finals that year. But again, it just shows that like this team didn't have Jordan for like half the season. The Bulls struggled for the first half of the season when they didn't have Michael. They went 23-25. Not bad, not good. Pretty mediocre. But it shows how good LeBron is when you when you leave a team for good. They don't even get past 20 wins. So that's just, I think I give one up to LeBron on that one, that he is such a big impact on that Cleveland Cavaliers team before he left for Miami that they just completely crumbled. There was no chance of revival after that. And then you also just look at this, how the playoffs went, and then that was LeBron's reign of terror in the NBA Finals. But just looking at that, it's been since his second year in the league since he's missed the playoffs. And right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers the LA Lakers, that is, are not looking too good. If you look at the record right now, last time I checked, they are in 11th place. They might be in 10th now, but we'll get on that right now. They are in 10th place as of right now, 30-31. They're under 500. And it's been a little bit of a long time since LeBron James has been under 500 after the All-Star break. And even though it's one game, it's still under the All-Star break, after the All-Star break, that is. And then, like, you look at the Kings, who were projected to be like dead last in the entire division, are fighting for that 8th place seed along with the Clippers and the Spurs. So the Lakers are like the odd one out looking in on this whole situation, which puts a big question mark on, like, is LeBron losing a step? Is LeBron the problem? And we say this because of, like, we know what he said about wanting to play with Anthony Davis, and the Lakers try to give everything to him to get him. Because, of course, everything happens in the Lakers organization with LeBron's say-so. I mean, let's face it. Every time, whatever team he's going to be on, he's going to have a say in the organization. That's just how it works. That's just always how it's worked with a guy like that. Okay, sorry. I just got like a weird thing from Kevin Durant, thanks to Bleacher Report. Kevin Durant on feeling accomplished. The NBA will never fulfill me. don't know what he means by that. Here's the actual quote. I don't need anything in this basketball world to fulfill anything in me. The NBA is never going to fulfill me, Durant told Kerith Burke of NBC Sports Bay Area in an interview released Friday, which is today. He also discussed what brings him happiness away from the court. Being around family, being around friends, he said. People who actually love you deep down into your core, who won't judge you. Oh, so it's, again, him getting his feelings hurt over people judging him by the fact that he left the Thunder to go to the much superior Warriors team. I'm sorry, my friend, but you're going to feel that for the rest of your career. That's just how it's going to be. I think when you sign, you should have known that going in, that you're going to be judged most likely for the rest of your career because you went to a better team than you were already on. Even though your team was great, you went to arguably the best team in NBA history because they had the best regular season record ever. So that brings about the questions like of your character, of your work ethic, and that always is going to put into question about that kind of stuff because you took in a quote-unquote easier route. I'm sorry, I understand it sucks to be treated like that, but this was all his decision. Is that a fair assumption to say this was all on him of why he's being judged like this? Because I think that's a fair decision. And it's just going to follow with him to the grave, It's just going to be one of those things. And he's been known for having this sensitive kind of skin, and this kind of just adds more to that point. So I understand what he's trying to do and saying, basketball's not everything to me. I love basketball, but I have more outside of the basketball world to fulfill my desires and my love. I get that. I totally understand what he's trying to say. But then he goes with the whole family thing and saying they're not judging you and they love you to your core. Then you're bashing the people that are judging you on Twitter and stuff. And there are always going to be people that are going to be criticizing you. And it's your job not to react to that. I saw him at the free throw line call a guy the B word after he shot a basket. It's like unnecessary I don't call it an outburst, but just unnecessary attacks at certain aspects of the game, and how people are responding to you is wrong. And hopefully one day he will learn that and be better at it, but right now he's just going to let people get under his skin forever. That's just the bottom line. I know it kind of went off the rails there, but I just got this update on Bleacher Report and I had to talk about it because the fact that point needs to get across. That he's always going to get criticized about the fact that he went to Golden State. And whether he goes to New York or anywhere else, it doesn't matter. He's got to be known for his career in Golden State and probably the most hated man in basketball. That's just the godforsaken truth. But we are going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about the games that happened yesterday as well as James Harden's legendary performance of 58 points. We'll get right on that when we return.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. just finished talking about all this stuff that's been happening recently with LeBron James and his career retrospective of when's the last time he didn't make the playoffs. And honestly, there's a good chance he doesn't make the playoffs this year. Honestly, if I had to make a prediction right now, I say they don't. I honestly say they don't. I know it's such a long shot because LeBron James is on that team, but man, there are some issues with this team. There are a lot of question marks with that Lakers team that puts me at a, this team might not be able to pull it off at the end of this run type of feeling. It just seems like it's going down to that point, no? I just feel like it's going down to a bad path. As in, like, he maybe thinks this was a mistake joining the Lakers. Maybe not a mistake joining the Lakers because he's getting, like, Space Jam 2 and all that other stuff that's going on. But as success in the NBA goes, he might be regretting that. But again, Anthony Davis might be going to the Lakers in the summer, and all those players that are kind of at odds with him are going to be gone. So, again, this all could be blown over by next season. But if it's going to be weird if LeBron doesn't make the playoffs. It will be weird not seeing him in the playoffs. That's just all I'm going to say. It's going to be weird. That just, bottom line is, it's like, how do I describe it? It's like the Yankees not wearing pinstripes, at home. That's not normal. That's just like, okay, you got to change that now. That's bothering me. Why is this bothering me so much? That's kind of like the feeling I would get if LeBron wasn't in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Just like, it just throws you off completely. But anyways, moving on from that, we got some games on yesterday. But one especially impressive one, James Harden, though his 30-point streak has unfortunately ended for him, he did show up big time in the game against the Heat as they prevail with his 58-point, 7-rebound, 10-assist game against Miami after Miami beat the Golden State Warriors off a buzzer beater by Dwayne Wade. But also there was during 22 minutes into the game, PJ Tucker kind of got dragged, I'm not sure what the call was, a moving screen, or it was a foul on him, but the guy he was guarding I don't really know what the situation was, but he was getting grabbed and he pulled into the guy, and the guy kind of flopped a little bit, which caused the ref to call a foul on him, PJ Tucker, thinking the other guy was getting hit with contact. Let's just say PJ Tucker was not too happy about it. Pretty upset. Language you cannot say on this podcast or anywhere else for that matter. So that's something. And then he gets ejected, and he sees get a little close to the referee. Let's just say it was a little close call, is all, and that just that gets me thinking about more of along lines of like, are the refs the ones that are thin-skinned, or is it the players, or both? Because sometimes you see very quick ejections. Sometimes you see it takes way too long to be ejected for some players, but I don't know. Just that was like the main thing that caught my eye the most about that game is PJ Tucker being very, not physical, but just, kind of wanting to be physical with the referees. I think that's just the main one right there. But regardless, moving on from that, we had some other games on yesterday as the Magic upset the Golden State Warriors. That's right. I think if my math is correct, we are in an alternate universe because the Warriors have just lost 2 in a row. The Warriors have lost 2 in a row. Repeat, this is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. They have lost 2 in a row. I repeat, they have lost 2 in a row. Granted, they did not have Kevin Durant playing. But still, they had DeMarcus Cousins playing, who had a 21-11 game. They had Klay Thompson, 21-point game. Steph Curry, 33-point game. In a very disappointing game for Draymond Green with 5 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists, just not getting the job done. But regardless, if you don't think the Magic can be in the playoffs, I think you're a believer now. Regardless of Kevin Durant being there or not, they won this game, and I stand by my selection of putting them in one of the final spots in the NBA playoffs on the Eastern Conference side. That's my take on it. It's hard not to discount them out after continuing to play hard at a fast-paced level, and they know how to get the job done. They're in a weaker Eastern Conference, sure, but they're winning games, and that's the most important thing right there is they're winning games. That's all you got to say about it, right? And so with that, there's some other games on as well. They were on yesterday. That was just really like seeing them lose 2 in a row. The Golden State Warriors is like them getting swept in this playoff series. That just doesn't happen. Anyways, another upset, the Jazz beating the Nuggets. I mean, maybe not as big as an upset, but still Nuggets losing their the first and second seeds in the Western Conference, the best conference arguably, lost. And again, the Nuggets were without the Nuggets did have Jokic, who didn't play his best game, 16, 13, and 7. I know that's still pretty good, but still. Donovan Mitchell really still playing at the level he did last season, where he was very highly touted with his 24-point performance. But I think bottom line is the biggest game of yesterday was definitely the Sixers and the Thunder, as the Sixers hold on to win 108-104. Ben Simmons with a triple-double, Harris with 32 points, Butler with 20. And this was all without Joel Embiid, so that's a pretty impressive run there for the 76ers. But I think this game just proves that they can beat anybody in the West. And this puts into perspective that this team is talented. This team trusted the process long enough, and we could be seeing a contender for a while to come. That's just how I see it, at least. I see a lot of potential in this team. And it'll be crazy not to have them considered title contenders for the next 5 years. It just seems like that's just the way it's ought to be, and that's the way it's going to be. You can count them out, sure, but I think when it comes down the next couple of years, and if I had to make a prediction, I think they make the finals within the next 5 years. And you know what? I can say they even win that series. I think that's what it might be coming down to. I think that's a very realistic probability that could happen with this very talented 76ers team. I mean, look at Allen Iverson's team that went to the finals. It was basically him and nobody else. I mean, there were some talented guys on that team, but let's face it, it was basically like a LeBron thing. It was a one-man show that did his best but couldn't really pull it off against a Western Conference team that had 2 superstars with Kobe and Shaq in it. So, but the Sixers have Joel Embiid. They have Jimmy Butler. They have Ben Simmons. They have a bunch of very talented, and Tobias Harris is no slouch either. They have a very good front five. The starting five is probably up there in the top 3, top 4 starting fives in the NBA right now. And you can't take that away from them. And this whole league now lives and dies with your starting five. So if you have an elite starting five, and I believe the 76ers do, they have a chance to go very far with the next few years if they keep this lineup the way it is, which might be a little difficult, but I think they can pull it off. But we're going to take another short break right now. When we come back, we'll be talking about the games that are happening today and previewing those games, and then and then we'll also be previewing the weekend's games. We'll be right on that when we return.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Let's talk about today's games that are happening because we got some good ones because it is Friday and it is basically an NBA kind of day. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games on today. One of the most important, well, maybe not important, but the primetime one, if you will, on ESPN is Lakers and the Bucks, the first-place Bucks, the team with the best record in the NBA, will be playing the team of, of disappointment in the Lakers. I really don't know how else to describe the Lakers right now. It's just disappointment, and I guess I can't really call it other than that. And with that, I will say this. Bucks-Lakers. Bucks coming off a narrow win against the Kings. Lakers coming off a win against the Pelicans, if I remember correctly. Still not looking good when it comes down. They're still 10th in the Western Conference. So they need to win. Okay, LeBron needs to win this game to prove that his team hasn't given up on him, as well as the facts that they need to prove that they can still play with the best of them. I just think that the Lakers, need to win this game to prove that they are still playoff contenders. But honestly, I still don't see them making the playoffs, win or lose this game. And this is just a huge, maybe a prove it to the world game. It just seems like the Lakers are not a laughing stock, but are like the people are whispering behind their backs like, oh, they're not very good, are they? Like, it's like kind of like oh my gosh, you know what they are? They're like that popular couple that actually just is arguing and are just sticking together because they're the popular couple. They're sticking together because people talk about them because they're kind of popular. That's them. That's what they are. Like they're only there for the popularity, but in reality, they're just not getting along, and they should have broken up a while ago. They're secretly dating other people, and that's the Lakers. That's the Lakers franchise at the moment. That's how I see it, at least. Yeah, I know. I was in high school once. I know high school drama, and the Lakers are classic high school drama right now. I just unlocked the power of realization with this. It makes so much sense. They're really liking somebody else. They're saying maybe we can get maybe I can leave her for them, and then it doesn't work out with that other girl because they're seeing somebody else, and that person doesn't want to break up, and they're not wanting to break up. So now they're stuck with the current relationship they're in, but they know that they wanted to be with that other person, so they're kind of at odds with each other, but they're trying to make things go right, and they're just working the kinks out right now and trying to see if they can get back into the relationship they once had or they were thinking about having. So we'll see how that relationship goes. Probably not, how do I say this? Probably not going to end well. Honestly, I see this relationship ending with those two, the guy that he was into more, Anthony Davis and LeBron James, will get together, and this couple is just holding on for the time being until that other couple breaks up, the Pelicans and Anthony Davis. That just seems like what it's going to come down to. That's the scenario. And with that, I say, this should be a TV show. The Days of Our LeBrons, or what was a good high school drama comedy show? Saved by the Bell, kind of. What did they Saved by LeBron? Saved by Davis. No, Saved by LeBron sounds better. Saved by Davis, one of those sounds bright. But it's that kind of show where there's a group of people, but there's always got to be like a relationship that goes on that's not going so well. I just narrowed down the Lakers' problems with a drama with a TV show from like the 90s. Well, I think it wasn't not a drama, it was a sitcom, I think, but there was drama in it. But people were laughing at it as well. So it works out perfectly. Boom, boom, boom. Write it down, take it home with you, and just let it soak in and just accept the fact that that's what the Lakers are right now. They're just an old 90s comedy show with some drama in it. And eventually it's going to work out where the two who are into each other will be together, LeBron and Anthony Davis. And they may live happily ever after for however long he wants to sign with the Lakers. So, yeah, that's just how that's going to go. That's the relationship. And yeah, I don't think there's any more reason to describe it. Boom, came up with it. So, moving on to other games, I had a little more fun with it than I realized. We got, let's just talk about the Anthony Davis Pelicans against the Phoenix Suns. Let's move on now because that's not entertaining at all. We actually have a 8th seed versus 9th seed matchup between the Kings and the Clippers. Marvin Bagley out with that knee injury. Unfortunately, he had in the Bucks game. Well, it sounds like it's just a sprained knee. He's going to get evaluated next week. But right now, it does not seem as serious as it portrayed to be when it actually happened the first time. So good for him because he's having a pretty good season, all things considered. But this is a game the Kings need to win to stay in a playoff contention and stay for an 8th seed, or maybe to go into the 7th seed team because of how close the Spurs are in the 7th seed with the 8th seed Clippers. So definitely a very important game to watch for the Western Conference playoffs. And whoever gets the 8th seed, I know is going to get swept by the Warriors, but the 7th seed is still around the same record. If we're looking at the records in the 8th and 7th seed in the Western Conference, the San Antonio Spurs and the Los Angeles Clippers have the same exact record at 34-29. And if the Kings get to like 34, if they tie with those records as well, let's just say the Clippers lose an extra game, the Kings win an extra game, and they tie with the Spurs for the 7th and 8th seed at the end of the day when the playoffs come. They have the better one-on-one. They have the better series record. The Kings have beaten the Spurs in their series. I believe they've beaten them 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. So I believe if that's how the playoffs work, then the Kings would take the 7th seed and play the number 2 Nuggets, and this 8th seeded Spurs will have to play the number 1 Warriors. So if the Kings don't want to have to face the Warriors in the first round, they'll need the Clippers to drop, and they'll need to at least be the same record as the Spurs in order to take that 7th seed to play. Not easier Nuggets team by any means, but a team they know they can compete with. I guess they can compete with the Warriors as well. They already, even the Warriors, even like Draymond Green said, I don't want to play them in the series because we're exhausted every time we play the Kings. So who knows how that's going to go down, but the Kings need to beat the Clippers tonight to stay in a playoff contention for sure. But those are the 2 main games that are happening. We got the Hornets and Nets. They're both basically fighting for playoff spot as well, but it seems like the Nets are going to stay in, and the Hornets are kind of losing their way out a little bit. And then you got the Bulls and Hawks, really no factor in there. We got the Blazers and Raptors, though, who are playing each other. They're both playoff teams. One is second in the Eastern Conference, and one is fourth in the Western Conference. So it's a pretty even matchup there. Pretty entertaining game to watch. I don't think it'll affect playoff spots by any means, regardless who wins and loses. But it'll be an entertaining game to watch between 2 very good teams. And then the Celtics facing the Wizards. If they lose that game, then they might be worse off than we all thought they were. But everyone else thinks Celtics are going worse and worse and worse. This might be the final shot that sinks the ship if they lose to the Wizards here tonight at 5 p.m. in Boston. So we'll see how all that goes. But we're going to take another short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about everything that's happening this weekend, and that should be the rest. That should be it for the day. So hold on tight. We'll be right back right after this.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Finishing up the day here with the weekend's matchups in the NBA. Tomorrow, we got a very hot Pacers team versus a hot Magic team. This is pretty even matchup based off just momentum-wise because Magic are coming off the win against the Warriors. Pacers are still holding on to that lead even without Victor Oladipo. So, looking good all right for now. So this is definitely going to be a very interesting game to say the least. Markelle Fultz still has not played for Orlando Magic, by the way. He got traded by them before the deadline. And still, with his shoulder injury, I believe it is, he still is sitting out on the outside looking in for that reason. So I guess what I'm guessing, but basically my guess for why he hasn't played, obviously, is his shoulder injury. And why they traded for him is because if they do make a run into the playoffs, he'll be ready by then, ? But if he's not, then it's definitely a plan for next season to get over a hump of some sort, to get into a playoff rhythm. But again, the former number one overall pick has not been good. I really hate to say it. I hate to be a downer when it comes to that kind of thing, but I mean, that's what he is. He's just been a very disappointing first overall pick out of Washington. I mean, at Washington, he was a scoring machine, absolutely. But regardless of that, he's just not performed to the level of a number one overall pick. He's been close to an Anthony Bennett rather than a LeBron James, if you will. Or even an Andrew Wiggins, for that matter. And he hasn't been doing too hot after being the number one overall pick coming out of Kansas, if I'm not mistaken. And, of course, who drafted him? The Cleveland Cavaliers, because they had 3 first-round draft picks in the last, since 2010 or whenever. Wait, it was Kyrie Irving in 2010, Anthony Bennett in 2013, and Andrew Wiggins in 2014. So, my goodness, how can you allow this team to have a 4th first-round draft pick in that amount of time? And honestly, I'm going to be honest. If the Cavaliers do get the number one overall pick this year, I'm calling BS. I know I'm going off topic here, but I'm calling officially rigged. If they get a 4th pick in the last 10 years, that's number one overall. There's no way that's allowed. That's no way that's fair. I'm sorry. There's no way. No offense to any Cavaliers fans. I know you've had it rough, but come on. That's a little ridiculous, all things considered, right? I'm not just crazy here. Okay, maybe I'm a little crazy, okay? Maybe I had just a little too much energy drink. Who cares? But I'm right on this, that it would have been rigged, right? I mean, it's the draft lottery has been suspicious since the first time in 1985 with David Stern and the whole Patrick Ewing incident with the New York Knicks. I mean, that was supposed rigged because of the bent envelope in the crystal ball bubble they had. That's why they don't really show it anymore, because they don't want that controversy again. They don't show the actual picking of the envelopes or whatever, however they work nowadays. I can't even tell. I can't. There's so much confusion when it comes to the draft lottery, especially with protected picks and swapping picks and that kind of thing. It's hard to keep track of it all. Even in NBA 2K, it's hard to keep track of it all. If you tried it, when you have the swap best pick, you're like, oh, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And then I had to look it up, and it's always so confusing how they word it. when it comes down to it. But moving on now. We got way off track there. Moving on to, let's talk about Pistons and Cavaliers. Cavaliers will lose. Moving on, we got the Nets and the Heat. We got two teams fighting for playoff positioning, and I think based off how D'Angelo Russell's been playing at the best of his career by far, I got to give this to the Nets. Honestly, the Nets have been playing extremely well. D'Angelo Russell has even said the best thing that ever happened to him was being traded to this team from the Lakers. And he's right. He's been an all-star. He was an all-star this year. I mean, he's been playing incredibly impressively this whole his stint with the Brooklyn Nets. And that's the beauty of the draft part is like, yeah, some perform extremely well right away, but some are in like the wrong space or wrong position for them to succeed in, and they got to find a new area where they will succeed in. And that's basically how this is all going. It's because of the fact that he's in now a position to succeed. He's in the right play. He's in the right offense. He's in the right area. He's in the right team. He's just in the right place at the right time to succeed, and that's what he's doing right now. He's doing the best he can with the best possible scenario. So good for him on that one. And honestly, I think they're going to be fine from here on in. Then we got the Grizzlies and Mavericks. Nothing really special there. Thunder and Spurs. Now, here's something interesting. Thunder need to win this game to hold on to that 7th seed for their lives. Thunder are looking to just improve, just to keep on holding on to their playoff spot as well. That's just a playoff positioning game for sure, but I got the Thunder winning that. And then probably the most entertaining game this weekend is Golden State versus the Philadelphia 76ers. If Philadelphia wins this game, that will make 3 losses in a row for the Golden State Warriors. And with the team they have, I think that would just be a sign of the apocalypse, no? Should we just call it after that? They lose 3 in a row. Should we just say that game over, man? I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, it's pretty scary. I mean, that's got to be some sign of like Illuminati or aliens or something, because that's just not natural. Or something, or a conspiracy theory. There must be something with the Bermuda Triangle in there if they lose 3 in a row. Something like that. But anyways, moving on from that, I think that I have the Warriors on that one, but I think it's going to be not an easy matchup against a very tough and very game 76ers team for sure. They're not going to be taken lightly at all. That process is processing very well, and you can only is go out for the 76ers. Then we have Pelicans and Nuggets, and nothing special, Lakers, Suns. Now we move on to Sunday, and we got Rockets and Celtics, basically identical records. Kyrie Irving versus James Harden. We'll see who comes out on top there. Again, that's just a position in playoff right there. Any other important games? No, that seems to about it. And then I'll look at Monday's games because those are Monday. We got just LA versus LA and so on and so forth. But I think from all these games, there's only a few important ones. And honestly, if the Warriors lose 3 straight, it'll be the most amazing thing I'll ever see this year by far. So with that, I will say that with all that's happening in the NBA and like outside of the NBA and all that kind of stuff, this has been one interesting season. I know it's not over yet, but with how the Lakers are doing, and I have been a criticizer of the NBA for a couple of years, saying how predictable it is, because seeing Warriors and Cavs has been very predictable and irritating almost. And I think everyone else has been kind of sick of it, just going, Warriors, Cavs again. I think that's just the ultimate sigh of just, I'm getting bored of this. This is the same thing over and over and over again. So with that being said, at least, seeing that the Lakers might not even make the playoffs, the Warriors are not this unstoppable juggernaut of a team as they used to be. They're actually playing in competitive matchups. It's not blowouts or anything of that nature. The Bucks being first place in the West, or in the Eastern Conference, excuse me, and Giannis coming into his own, and just some other great things like Paul George being the MVP candidate instead of Russell Westbrook. It's a very refreshing season, definitely, and I'm very excited for what happens next. But thank you so much for joining us today, and please tune us in next week for more stuff, and for more basketball stuff. And as always, I'm Jeff Melanoff, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.